Hmm. Hello, hello. Good day, everyone. Happy day to you. Joy, joyful, peaceful day, whatever day you're having. It is today. Thank you so much for joining me. I am ONYI, and I also go by ONYI Love and many other names. And this is discussion number 5 of Heal the Healers. Heal the Healers is an initiative that I launched and that I am holding space for in my particular way to support healers, to support all those individuals that fall under this broad overarching category that I am calling the healers. And that includes, but is not limited to, birth workers, death workers, therapists, counselors, first responders, law enforcement agents, spiritual workers, so many more individuals that serve the collective to support people in their healing, to support people in reminding that they have the permission and the ability to heal themselves. This initiative is to support those individuals so that they can attend to their own healing, so that they can more fully show up for the rest of us. So thank you for joining us. I've been having so many beautiful conversations and insights in light of those conversations with specific individuals in various vocations, careers, again, subcategories within the larger category that I'm calling the healers. So again, thank you so much for joining me. You can find out more about this initiative and also links to the previous conversations through YouTube. So definitely like and subscribe to my channel and watch the videos from before. You can go to my website, www.onyi.love. That's onyi.love, to learn more about this initiative and the work that I do in general. So I am so looking forward to having my guest that I'll be bringing on today, Hannah Hewes-Clark, and I will give her bio when she arrives, when I let her in, so that you can hear what she is doing and hear how I met her and hear our conversation that centers around healing the healers. So I'm going to bring Hannah in. Hello, hello, Hannah.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You are welcome. I did a very quick, brief intro, which was just actually just giving your name, really. But I'm going to give the actual bio that I have for you because, as I was mentioning to you before, it's such a beautiful bio. It just, as I was reading it, it just, my heart was like,
Hmm.
it just, so I would just love to speak it so that whatever lands for people in their bodies can land for people, and hearing that and
Yeah.
allowing it to just generate whatever it generates. And then I would love to give you the opportunity to continue describing yourself in ways that are specific to you, in ways that people wouldn't even consider.
Okay. Can we hear that? I have a text.
I did hear a bell, so that was there. But if you need a moment to shift any settings, you can feel free to take a moment and I can read your bio in the meantime.
Go for it. Go for it. Thank you.
Okay, so Hannah Hewes-Clark, therapist, licensed clinical social worker. Hannah is a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist. She worked in community mental health before stepping into her current role serving OBGYN patients in an integrated healthcare model. Having been recently certified as a birth doula, she is deepening her expertise in perinatal mental health and full spectrum issues faced by birthing people across the lifespan. Her aims for her practice are to break cycles of trauma, heal intergenerational wounds, transform shame into compassion, and help clients access the intuitive powers that they have. Her approach to her work is to hold space for the whole person, the fullest expression of self without judgment or shame. Just letting that sit. Myself, also for you, Hannah. to just hear those words reflected back to you in the way that you constructed them. And for everyone listening and watching to just really let that description just sit and move through you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. It's so interesting to have a bio read back to you, and one that I sort of, I wrote with my own words, conceptualized, and trying to kind of take what I see myself as doing in the world and my work and condense it in a way that encaptures it authentically. I feel that what I wrote is maybe what I hope to manifest, in my work, and what I aim to do. So thank you for reading it back to me. It's really lovely to sit with that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And as you were speaking, and even before you started speaking, but also as I was listening to you just share what you did, it's like what came to me is that, okay, that's so moving and touching and beautiful and all-encompassing. And it still doesn't fully encompass what you do and all that you are. It's like talked about the paradox, when we first got on the call, our pre-talk, which I'll share with you what occurred actually before this whole situation. So you can see that this work of healing the healers is constantly happening. And I'm doing it myself, for myself, with myself, and in reflection with others, and allowing myself to be held by others so that I can heal. But it's like no bio can ever be enough to really encompass all that we are.
Yeah. We're healing, like you said, every moment of every day. And I love what you said about allowing yourself to be held by others, received by others. And, I've been on my Zoom meetings all day and providing my services to my clients today. And it's just it's feeling really profound and really lovely to be in this space with you. And as I was sharing with you, right, that this feels outside of my comfort zone, and there's the nerves and the jitters, and I just kept thinking like, well, I trust Oni. I just trust her, so I'll just let her hold that. So I'm so thankful that we get to be in that together and hold that space together.
Yeah. And part of that holding too is if there's any topic of conversation that for you doesn't feel aligned to go into, you have the permission to say, I'd rather not talk about that. Because I do want to respect that about you as an individual and the work that you do, because I do understand we are operating in the systems that we operate in.
Yes.
And sometimes it'll create whatever it does, and we navigate that. And I don't need to, nor do I encourage anyone to have this mentality of like, let's just break through and do this and do that because we have to. It's like, I get that. And there's a space for that when there's a space for it. And when it's not actually helpful, like, let's do what is actually called for in the moments that are called for. And just give everything its due space. So by any means, if anything comes up, like I've told other people in my bullet points of these are the things that we're going to talk about, I said, what are topics that are taboo or off limits for you? So by all means, I always encourage people to take advantage of being like, no, it's okay. And especially you, like you said, you came from having client after client after client, and she still held space for me. And like, basically I got on the call and just was like allowing myself to be emotional because of the energies that I've been navigating and choices that I need to make and ways in which I'm recognizing a lot of things. And it was a lot on top of dealing with the things that are a lot in humanity, society, and the media right now.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And I was given the space by her, being held by her after she has been doing the work. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. And you get to have that reciprocated to you in the ways that you need.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you. I would love for you to just describe yourself in whatever ways come to you that you feel are different from the bio that was given, or that, weave in and out of the bio that was given. Just whatever comes to you to share in this moment about yourself.
Yeah. For some reason, it's feeling important to say that I'm a daughter. I'm a daughter to a poet and an activist. I'm a sister to an artist. So I have sort of this family tree of art and creativity, and a real passion for, I think, truth seeking and truth telling, just in my lineage and as part of my family culture. I'm really, very early in my career stages. So I feel I'm just such a learner, I feel like I'm such a learner, a student. I'm really, really motivated. I've heard some of your other guests talk about this as well, but I'm deeply motivated by love and the energy of love, and its power and its pain. And I'm motivated by truth. I think I have a real curiosity and yearning to get as close as I can to the many truths of humanity and our lived experience on this planet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I often think about why this work? Where, what am I doing here? And why does this feel so purposeful, to my spirit? And I think that there's just sort of that innate, forever student and curiosity, explorer. I think in terms of my work, I see a lot of what I do as a witnessing, I do guiding and, psychoeducation and interventions and all of those wonderful things that I have the privilege to do. But I think so much of the power of therapy work and working in mental health is through witnessing, someone's journey and someone's story, and receiving it in its fullness, and in its complexity. So I feel that I have the honor to be a witness.
In listening to your description, it's interesting. And I'm kind of racking my memory to see where I've heard this or witnessed it myself and others. And I'm sure I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming to the forefront right now to speak to, because in you describing yourself, you centered relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a daughter to this person, I'm a sister to this person. And so, the relationship and how you serve in that relationship was kind of brought to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a centering of the actions and the choices you make navigating this life as a description of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. It hasn't, again, I'm sure I've heard others do that before, but maybe not in the same way, or I'm just attentive to it in a new way in light of your reflection in this moment in time.
Mm.
And it's really profound for me.
It is interesting, sometimes there's that voice inside of me that's like, this is um your way, this is your defense mechanism, right? To cope with the vulnerability of being seen,
Mhm.
right? Is to describe yourself through other relationships or through what you do, right? Rather than who you are. Um, so yeah, I it is profound, right? I think it is. All of the things I talked about are really important to me, and um I'm finding it, I'm feeling it to be interesting, even that I was called to speak to my family relationships. um I just, I was, as I was, you were bringing the question up, I was like, family, family, daughter, daughter, like these words just kept coming through to me. So maybe I'm just feeling the connection more to that right now. I don't know, but um you're provoking me to think about, right? How would I describe myself just in the terms of just who I am, right? Not how I relate.
And it's and what I'm actually not doing is saying that you need to change.
Mhm,
I don't know if you took it that way, but I think it's giving people an opportunity to see the various ways in which we describe and see ourselves, because we're oftentimes so forced into these identities.
mhm,
I am a this, like a black woman, white woman, like cis het man, da da
mhm,
da da da, all these things that then are projected onto with what all of that means.
mhm,
And that to me can be restricting in that it doesn't give the full spectrum again of what a person has been through, who they relate to, who they're related to, what how they see the world, how they do. And if being is doing, it would almost make sense to me to say, okay, I am a person that investigates.
mhm,
I investigate things. I hold space for things, describing ourselves using actions. And through the actions, people can know more about us.
mhm,
Through relationship with others and how they are in and of themselves lending themselves to a specific way of being,
mhm,
because a daughter is going to have a specific set of experiences that a son would have, then a mother would have, then a father, then they have their, now what we decide those are, that's where we can project. But in the archetype of those relationships, there are core things that would be the same across the spectrum.
mhm, mhm.
And then we bring our own individual experiences, destiny, all the things into that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I didn't imagine that you were running. If you were, then then you get to you get to sit with that. And if you were not, I didn't get that sense necessarily. And I think it's good for people to hear, like, in what ways are we running away from something through how we describe ourselves or what other people are doing, um, or our own response to what other people are doing. And that was a part of, my working through the emotion today was me reviewing a correspondence from someone where in their attempt to dictate what I was doing, they were running away from what they were actually doing.
Mm, mm. Holding on tight to that steering wheel,
Yeah.
trying to drive the car in a certain direction and keep the blinders on, right?
Dismiss everything else because
Mhm,
you're unwilling to actually recognize what is actually there.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I thank you for that beautiful opportunity to witness your description, that to me you gave in a neutral way. And you also, in responding to what I brought to you, you were able to do the work of recognizing, okay, I know I have chosen in the past to run away from being visible.
Mm.
So you sat with that for a moment, but then I think you came back to like, no. And I was able to witness like, no, you weren't running.
Mm.
And that's the work that we're always given the opportunity to do.
Yes. There's always the opportunity, and it's if we wish to engage it. Mm-hmm.
The part.
Mm-hmm.
So then to bring that full circle into focusing on heal the healers, looking at healers, looking at people that specifically do the work that you do as a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
in all the ways you're certified, of like what you are showing up to engage in or with that people are bringing to you. And as you do that work, what are the things that you imagine are necessary for you to be held so you can actually do the work
Mm-hmm.
to engage with, because you have your work, you signed up to engage with all the things that happen in people's mental space, right?
Yes.
That happen in light of society and all the social issues. So you signed up to engage with it, but what are the things that you're having to engage with that are not that work necessarily, that then create whatever it is that you need to heal from or heal through, or just on your, like, clean yourself from, because like, okay, I had to take on this thing that was not, but I'll still do it, engage with it, because it's all part of it. So I'd
Yeah.
love to hear you speak to that.
Well, I was thinking about that last night a lot. And I think part of the reason I so love this campaign that you're doing and the work that you're doing with Heal the Healers, because I think that I'll speak to, the world of mental health, mental health professions and social workers and marriage and family therapists and, psychotherapists and all their many titles. There's anytime that a certain field is working toward recognition on a more, the sort of dominant culture or societal level, right? Trying to be more legitimized. There's a getting closer to the way of like colonizing, right? Or stripping, right, a field of the spirit and its heart, and I love science and I love all the technology that's been brought to help my profession, but I have found personally that I really long for spaces where the spirituality of what I do and of the therapy work is recognized and honored, and given respect. So I just love that you are stepping into this and offering, a spiritual space for healers to come and to, I think, just feel into, the depth of that and so much of the mystery, right, of what we do and see outside of the research, and the evidence-based and all those things. So I think having a spiritual space to land and to process, is really meaningful to me personally. And I think, therapy work and working with the mind is so, like you said, so engaging and sticky sometimes, fascinating a lot of the time, most of the time, and can be like deeply, deeply rewarding, but not, I think, in the way that people expect it to be, right? In terms of, oh, you get to go in and you help somebody and then you feel really good about yourself and you get to see a transformation happen, every day. Oh my gosh, that would make everyone would sign up. It's long, arduous journeys, it's sitting in uncertainty and unknowing, and holding, being a vessel for hope, holding hope for people in their hopeless moments. So I think to be supported in that, right, we need our own space to see ourselves. Clients will hold a mirror up to you all the time in new and unexpected ways. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to have done a lot of your own work to understand yourself, and understand what your reactions are and what your responses are, to say, oh, I know when I start feeling a little guarded and I don't want to be seen, this is how I run, or this is how I hide. So having a space to do our own work, and I think it should be like required. In some programs it is, in some others it isn't. Yeah. And yet, I think, again, I'm very young in my career, I'm early on, but my suspicion and my gut tells me that, 20, 30, 50 years into doing this work, there will always be surprises in terms of our own reactions and responses. So just feeling like you have the tools for that, and have a safe space to go to, and places to process. On a societal level, I think that requires resources and compensation and wages to support yourself and your family, to feel like you can come home and hug your family, hug your own children, hug your partner, and not have to worry about, being able to provide. Yeah.
It's interesting because I keep getting the, everything you've said is a lot in terms of what is needed, and there's still so much more.
So much more. Yeah. So much more. I could answer, like, I could write a dissertation about that.
Yeah.
A system that like supports our work without burning us out.
And in order to support it, they need to see it as valid. And I love that you brought into the space the colonization, right? this idea that you can take a piece of something because you like that little piece. Like, oh, that looks good. That's shiny. Let's take it, and then disregard the rest. But it's like, no, no, it all actually comes together one. So if you take away the piece, it's this interesting paradox, because on the one hand, it's like then the thing is no longer the thing, because what you took away was now disconnected from the whole. You
Mm-hmm.
can't separate it. So that's one perspective, one way to look at it. And then the other way to look at it is like, okay, if you take that piece that still contains the spirit, because the spirit can't be actually separated from the thing. The spirit, and one of my teachers, mentors says, everyone always talks about and I said this, I think, on the call with Hayes and Tanya, the birth worker and the death worker, that, everyone always looks at the body as the spirit is in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I can take whatever I want with the body, and then the spirit, that's part of it. Like, I just won't take the piece that has, the spirit. But my mentor says, but actually the body is in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So our spirits chose our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take any piece of my body, you're still taking the spirit. Like, the spirit is like, well, spirit's going to go with you. It's just going to be a piece, that piece of the body still holds the spirit. So same thing of like, in all of these professions, vocation, it's like the spirit that the way that's kind of filtering through my mind right now is like the spirit that governs these specific vocations or industries or categories, subcategories, is like, it's a spirit that's doing the work that the spirit is doing through that entire profession. So you have to, like, whatever we got to whittle down to what the core essence of the profession is, like that the spirit is encompassed in all of that and encompasses that.
Yes. Integrate it. Yeah. I mean, when I'm in my therapy sessions, and I only practice talk therapy at this point. It's there's a it's a really good session, and I think this is happening all the time, but there's moments when you can feel it. It's like our spirits are dancing like above us, like all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're in this dance, right? And we're working through it. And I, like you said, I'm here as a tool, I'm here as a vessel, right? But it's my spirit working through that. And we can feel this kind of like, all right, and it's like, I have to trust myself. I have to trust my spirit, right? So that the person I'm working with can also release and surrender into that space, and trust themselves, right? To let go, right? It's really more so that, right, than about them trusting me, right? But it starts with, I think, me trusting myself to create the space there for that dance to happen.
Yeah. It reminded me of a conversation that I had with a good friend of mine who's also working with me in my business, but does self-development and it's all about her spirituality. And we were kind of joking, like, I wish we could just like either shake people up or like, take a magic wand and like ding and have people like do the things that in our minds they're supposed to do to be like more of themselves. And I'm joking and laughing with her because we're in our petty right in that moment. And I was like, you know what? The magic wand is us. We are the magic wand called showing up and doing that work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't separate that and be like, I don't need to do it. And let me just, and we were talking about that. Like, we can't force people to do anything. That's going against their own the part of themselves that is choosing to make the decisions they're making. So they get to do that. That's part of their path. You're always on your path. You're never off your path. No matter what detours you take, no matter if you crash the vehicle, if you started reversing, if you're crossing, doesn't matter. That's your path, and life's like, cool, you do whatever you're gonna do, because it's called the experience.
Right.
And we get to be a reflection, us as healers, as you were speaking about in your therapy sessions. Like, if the spirit is dancing, if the spirit is doing whatever it's doing, like, you get to, in your sessions and outside of your sessions, engage your spirit to hold that space for yourself, because that's the only way you're going to reflect to your client that they are safe and have permission to do the same thing.
Yeah, this is what we were, also touching on before our call of, the permission to yourself, giving yourself permission to surrender, to be in the moment, to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, right? Without punishments or judgments. And preparing for our conversation too, I kept thinking, like, I just want Goddess to just talk through me. I just want her to talk through me. And then I would go, no, she's in me. She's in me already. And I shared with you that I pulled a card for a conversation, and I pulled from a beautiful deck I have called the Next World Tarot. And I pulled the High Priestess card for this conversation, and I was like, wow. And I have her looking, like, right here, and I'm like, she's looking at me, and she's just giving me this very affirming, like, and then I'm like,
show the card on, I don't know if you can pull it up so that you can show the image.
I would love to. Priestess. It's illustrated by a woman named Christy Rode.
That's beautiful.
Wow. So I have her here just looking at me like, yeah, you already know everything, and it's all, and I'm just going, oh no, but it's inside me, right? So, right, that trusting ourselves, right? Trusting what's in us already, and trusting the access we have to that power. It's a practice. It's a practice because we go in and out of it so often and so easily, and we hit the edges, right? And we go, like you said in the car, we go, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, make it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep driving this thing, and there's times when it's like, hold on a little tighter, perk up, get ready. And then there's times when it's like, just loosen, and flow with it.
Yeah. And there's time to just pull over to the side, sit and breathe, get outside the car, take a walk, come back to the car, lean on the car. You just do all the things with the car, but you're on your path. Like, they're like, but you're on the road. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't escape it, but do what you got to do within it.
Yeah.
And just keep traveling.
Keep going.
And I think we have this idea, and actually that was when you told me before our call that you had pulled a card. It's like, oh, let me bring the card that I pulled this morning.
Yeah.
Which was traveling. The traveling card. So the deck that I was working with is the Oshun Tarot deck. And so I pulled this card that is traveling.
Wow.
I'm always seeing like all the like multi-dimensional layers for myself, and how I've read cards in the past for myself and for others is to just see what is most pertinent to address as I'm looking at the image. And that can include all the numbers, the colors, the way certain like parts of the illustration are interacting with each other. So that just helps ground the information that is showing up to teach me whatever I need to learn in the moment. And so, like, the first lesson that I learned as I was navigating anger earlier today, and anger for the last few days actually, was okay, when we don't address, speak to, shed light on anger or any emotion, then we keep it stuck wherever it's going to stay stuck based on our own conditioning, based on, the part of the body that vibrates at the frequency that will hold those emotions. They talk about chakras and the systems, but it's like, yeah, what are the vibration of different parts of your body that hold that energy? So when we don't speak to those, we keep them stuck so they can't travel to where they need to travel or how they need to travel and travel out. Hostage. So I was like, okay, I have to let this, I'm really angry right now. And let me write the things that I need to write so that the anger can like move through and illuminate, burn through all the things I need to let go of. I need to let it travel, not keep it captive because I'm afraid of it or what I might do with it. No, let it travel. Let it travel and be held by the people you trust so that they can help, they can witness you traveling it, and then they can like reel you in and bring the hose and be like, okay, let's, put out the fires. So that was the first level. And then the second level is just traveling to a higher perspective so that you don't stay stuck in the lower energies and some, the nitty gritty details that we like to get caught up in, which sometimes it's good to know the nitty gritty details. But sometimes we get so caught up in that we keep ourselves stuck and we can't go higher to see the bigger picture.
Having that conversation over and over and over again in your head.
It's like travel. So travel, see the higher perspective. And also like the journey and the process is the point.
Yes.
There is no one that once you get to the destination, it's like, well, then you just started again. And like the destination keeps changing based on all the decisions you make at every given time. So the destination is really just a journey because there are an infinite number of destinations within that journey.
Right. The destination is the new next journey,
Oh, there's an infinite number of journeys that the destination is called you're alive on this earth, in this dimension, in this time. And even that's not the does because we're infinite. So it's like we're already here. The destination is here and now, whatever here and now looks like.
Exactly where we are, moment to moment. I love the way you describe that. Looking at that card, I think of travel and I think of a road and I think of the ground, and that was the sky, that was a stormy, swirly, yes. Yeah. So cool to see it, an image of it that encapsulates what you just described of bringing it to a different vibration, transmuting the energy, right, from where it feels stuck and where we're holding it into, a higher place where it can be released and harnessed and, whatever it needs to do, whatever its purpose is. That is so cool. I love that image. And I love that we can have these like images and art and visualizations and, dance and music, the things that you do so beautifully as well, to do some of that for us also.
And that's part of the therapy. And what I appreciate about you is the fact that you can see that. You see that. Because I think in the conventional way that conventional Western or other ways that people want to, again, box in therapy, psychotherapy, psychiatry, it's like, no, stick to this and this type of theory and that type of theory and negate everything else because this is the scientific way, which that was another point that you brought in that I question that often. Like it's like science or spirituality.
Right.
And I'm like, one perspective is like, why are they separate? Two, isn't science, the word science, like a process or the process by which? So there's a science of this and a science of that and a science to this and a science to that. So why do we extract that and put it in its own category that then is like separate and king to everything else?
Right. It's like you said, picking out that one shiny thing and trying to strip it of everything else. Yeah.
And that's what we do. And we've created great things from that, right? We extract like that all our products. So like extract that one thing that we like and then expand it, which is like great, but then it's like, but something's out of balance now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you took it from where it naturally existed, that was an ecosystem that knows how to regulate itself with all the other things. You liked that, you then like magnified it by exponentially. And now what we're dealing with as we consume those things and however way we consume it, the imbalance that is created within us. And then we go to our therapist.
And this is why I stay employed.
We have no shortage of people who need therapy to manage what has become imbalanced and reflects itself through the imbalance of the mental, intellectual spaces, psychological spaces.
Right. Yeah, psychological and physical, because it's so connected. So when I say I at this point only practice talk therapy, but that includes a lot of dipping into like the physical manifestation and, where are we feeling this in our body, right? How can we move it through? What can we use to do that? And when like you said, for example, when anger feels stuck in one place, right? Our minds and our brains have really amazing mechanisms, right, to deal with that and to react to it. And sometimes those mechanisms are very useful and they help us survive, and then they become no longer useful. And I think we just need a lot of help and support and guidance with how to move out of that mechanism.
Yeah. I'm curious about your perspective on this, because what came to mind in hearing your appreciation for the therapeutic elements of things like art and movement and sound is, and I find that as society, we love to be like on the extremes of things, right? We like feel this way and then we realize like that's imbalanced, but we're like extreme other side. I'm like, let's come to the middle. But I think that's again the journey and is a process, is the point. So we'll eventually kind of like the pendulum will just eventually balance and do what it needs to do. Because you have this other side where, as more and more people are recognizing the need for like therapy, right? And I think oftentimes in the conventional sense, like psychotherapy and talk therapy. So there's this, and I've seen this often, and people will boldly and proudly say it, which is like, oh, I can't deal with a person who's not going to therapy. If you ain't got a therapist and I can't deal with you, like don't, especially, and I'm thinking like comically about like conversations that I've had with like girlfriends about like, partners and
yeah.
And not a lot of my friends have said this, but in thinking about those conversations and I see these posts and people are like, I couldn't deal with a man who's not in therapy, and like 50 million people are liking it. And I'm like, okay, what if someone's not necessarily needing like psychotherapy in that way, but they dance, but they go and do, yoga or Reiki, or they have a priest and they're in balance with their spiritual tradition and that's helping them. Like those things are therapeutic to where if they're not going to see someone in this conventional, let me lay on the couch, that conditioned image, like don't negate the therapeutic elements of other forms of work. Like, stop reducing people to these specific things.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You make that like the signpost of what treatment can look like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to think about the pendulum in that way, right? Like the stigma of therapy and mental health services versus, the like it's the only one, right? It's putting it on a pedestal in that way. Yeah, and it should never be placed on a pedestal, you know. It's one space we have, it's one practice we know about right now, right? Of many,
Yeah.
many. And I think the journey, right? Like you said, it can be today I need therapy and tomorrow I need to be dancing in the club with my friends. Like that's therapeutic, and today I need to talk about my trauma so I can share it with somebody and allow somebody to hold space for it. And tomorrow I need to just, listen to music that reflects my experience, and let that hold me and hold space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's something beautiful in therapy about the relationship, the therapeutic relationship and that container. I obviously have a deep appreciation and respect for the training, of having an ear for, there's something here coming up. There's a certain pattern, right? And especially when we're talking about more situations that could escalate, right? That are more higher risk. I think that I have such a appreciation for the role of mental health professionals to be able to see and point at and kind of help to redirect, right? And put in place some support around that so that people don't have to be escalated in their suffering.
Yeah.
But I think we're all kind of working at our own baselines, and there's really bad therapy, out there. So it's also something to be wary of in that way. I think we're barely, society is barely now validating therapy and mental health services and the need and the importance of it. So oh my gosh, we're gonna look back in 20 years and be like, I can't believe we did that. Like that was horrible. So it's humbling. It's something that needs to be humbled, like we're figuring it out as we go too,
Yeah. You reminded me of my own journey with medicine, conventional medicine, and I'm tracking the movements based on my recognition of the conditioned idea about what therapy is, as opposed to or in comparison to like conventional medicine. And then even looking at the comparison of like the work that I do with like esoteric and like energy, and I'm just like, because I started pre-med in college and was taking pre-med classes, and I was like, no, I can't. It's just not working out. But given my background and my heritage, it's like
not working out.
doctor, engineer, lawyer. Those are the three things you can do to be like to have made it. So I was like, oh, like I don't want to do the doctor thing, but I was like, let me pick something that's like kind of like medicine, but like kind of goes into like what I like to do. I was like, ooh, psychology.
Yeah.
That was my choice. Psychology. And it's like psychology like that, which was a combination of the social sciences and psychology. So it's like, there's the medicine part ish. And then like there's all the other things. So that was like my bridge. And that was like 20 years ago, of course. And now here I am. I'm like energy healer. I do spiritual and shamanistic practices. And how does that look to people who have ideas about what is valid and not?
Yep.
Versus there's a spectrum of work and tools and practices and techniques and processes that support one in their wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Spectrum from, to me, the least invasive to the most invasive, from doing your own individual work without the need for anyone else, to like, no, you need someone else to actually be the trigger for the energy to come through, or be the one to like manipulate your body and invade your body from proper training. There's full spectrum, and no one part of the spectrum is more important than the other. Without any one of them, that spectrum is not the fullness of the spectrum.
It makes me think about community. It makes me think about how I think the most powerful and impactful resource we have for our healing journeys is community. And yeah, and that I think, we're in community. I wish that like across that spectrum that you just talked about, like we saw each other all as being in community with each other.
Yeah. And I think like you are a beautiful example of that. Again, going back to how you described yourself, and like a part of who you are is the relationships to other people. And you started with your family in your description after the bio. And for to share with everyone of how I met Hannah was that my doula teacher mentor, Hayes Hawk, who listened to conversation number 3, I believe, she reached out to me because I had mentioned Heal the Healers a while ago, because it was in her doula course that I was like getting downloads and like having all these like recognitions. And then over time, what I understood it to be, or part of what I understood it to be, was like, I need to launch this Heal the Healers. And so I told her, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking and all the things. And like my doula-ship is going to look different. She remembered that. And then Hannah took doula's course after I did. Hayes, fast forward, reaches out to me, is like, you need to meet Hannah. Like, based on the work that she's doing, that I know you're doing, I think you two would work well together. So Hannah, given her community mindedness, rather than sticking to, let me stick to, therapy in the sense, and like, just keep it in that box. I recognize that there's a spectrum, and yeah, she may not be able to hit all the pieces of the spectrum. Who can? That's a lot of work. That's too much. But what was coming to her, and you can describe more for you about what that was something about birth workers. And being in community with birth workers through first this course and getting the certification, and then making the decision to support birth workers using the work that she does in her therapy. That's community. Just want to let people sit with that. For some of us, our work is, stay in our specific areas. So that's where our work is. For others, it's like, be in our areas, learn what we need to learn, see what other areas that are ringing to us for whatever reason, and bridge the gap and support those communities, because that in and of itself is a whole other layer of healing for the collectives and for the healers. So I would love for you to speak about what you are seeing and feeling and getting to cause you to go in that direction, because to me that is healing the healers as well. You're taking your skill, seeing a need, that you can support with that specific skill in a whole different other realm, but they're still connected through a lot of the work that's overlapping.
Yeah. Yeah. God, it's really affirming to hear you speak of it in that way and reflect that back to me. Thank you. Thank you for that. And to be completely honest, I feel right now like I'm in the thick of it. Like I am in a fog of like, I'm just moving through it. Like I'm really using my intuition, right, to guide like where this is manifesting for me. But I think you're right. It is both a learned, a taught and a innate sense of community, right? Understanding that is our greatest resource. And the world just, we need stronger community. I think we have beautiful models of it, and then we have a lot of fractured models of it. I've grappled with these themes like that we've been talking about for a long time. Everything in my life has always felt a little bit like a duality. I remember being in college and really loving the idea of like direct service work, right? And then being a gender and sexuality studies major and being really, being politicized and, impassioned by understanding of systems and of organizing and, activism. So it felt like this dichotomy, like where does direct service work play into, social change and social justice? But to get closer to where I'm at now, so I was going through a transition in my life where I was understanding that I needed to change jobs and move towards a practice of, mental health services, whatever that would look like, that felt more aligned with just where my spirit wanted to be. And I decided to, leave my job without knowing where I would be going and take some time. And I knew I've just always wanted to do birth work. I've just always wanted to become a doula. So I found Hayes's course, and I was like, this is what I'll do, in my time between. I'll take this course. It was awesome. Like, it was just awesome. Like, it was so beautiful and fun and so thought-provoking for me. And it just felt like, oh, this is exactly this is exactly the class I was meant to be in. And then, I was able to move into work in the mental health field with a lot of like the perinatal mental health population. So I was like, God, this feels so aligned, to really deepen into that. And what's interesting too is that I'm at a place in my life I never expected myself to be. But through my own personal life and my personal journey, as a queer woman, I'm finding that also one of my purposes in this work is to serve queer families who are growing their families and facing the many barriers to that. So, and challenges and difficulties. And so I'm like, God, everything feels like it kind of just lands you in this place where you're looking and you're going, oh, well, that's what that was for. Like, I didn't know why I was doing that, but I just knew it felt right, So Hayes told me, and she certified me, and then she was like, I really see you supporting birth workers within the practice of what you do, and I really see you educating and holding space for that community and helping. She's like, birth workers need help, like, they need support. And I was like, yes, Hayes, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. And there was a part of me that I was like, you don't think I should like be a doula? Which that isn't what she was saying at all. It's like, you can be both and do all the things, but she's like, go move towards that. And she told me about yourself. She's like, oh, look at this work that this woman ONYI is doing. And then of course I went to your page and I was like, oh my God. Like, she's just so beautiful and talented and, in aligned, just so aligned in a way. And so then I was like, yes, I will do that. And our conversations have just been really profound to me and really, really sacred and precious. And so all of that to say, I feel like I am in the haze a little bit, in the fog of it. And my purpose right now feels to move towards, the things that my spirit is saying yes to. And actually, as we're talking, I'm like, I set an intention, I think for the last, 3 years, whether it's been around the new year or the solstice or, whenever I'm kind of setting aside time to set intentions, it's always been build community and deepen community. And I think I'm just moving towards that, and I love being a therapist. And I love birth work. I think it's just so freaking cool. I listened to Hayes and Tanya's episode and I was just like, yes to everything they're saying. So it feels like an honor and just like something so exciting, to like enter into. I feel a little like wide-eyed, and yeah, to be welcomed and to be embraced in it is just really humbling and really lovely. And yeah, I think being able to cross those paths too, build those bridges and cross those paths and say like, hey, we got you, like we got you. And therapists need doulas, and queer birthing people need doulas who are queer or who look like them, and doulas need space to birth themselves, to cleanse themselves, to do all those things. So yeah, I mean, it's like the way I felt when I came on this conversation with you, like we're here for each other.
Yeah. No, we're here for each other. I think if that was the baseline for how humans operated in general, in all areas, the world that we create from that, it's a beautiful place to envision.
The future that we're moving towards
Yeah.
and or in at
And
any given
it
point.
already exists. It is here. It's the distance between us and it is literally a choice or a set of choices, but it's here.
That's an incredible reminder.
And I feel like you're living that, you're practicing that. And I feel that you are, and I've met many people who are a reflection of that. I think it's really beautiful. I think it's really beautiful, and I appreciate the work that you all do. I really do. And I had brought the card back because it's funny. There's a light. I think it's a candle behind you.
Yeah.
And it's the how it looks from my perspective. It almost looks as if the sun is setting like in front of your eyes and is being reflected in the back of you, and I'm seeing the reflection. It's very strange. A little sunset behind her, but I'm like, is that a mirror of the sunset? But I'm like, but she's looking at me, so she's not looking direct. I don't know. But it's just I keep looking at it because it's almost like this sunset or sunrise, like the horizon and the sun is breaking through. Um, and I keep going back to this card and just, like I need to show it to everyone and to you as well again, to hold this as a reminder to you all of that fire, that light, that traveling to the light, allowing the energy to move through, and that the process is the point. And that high priestess card showing up and saying that you are the thing, you are me, you are it. And it's like at any given point, like our responsibility is to just be who and what we are. Period. And that in and of itself is revolutionary. That in and of itself shifts and changes worlds, or shifts us to different worlds that exist. And it is the work. And it paves the way and opens the door for all the ways the work can be done through us. But why would the work that needs to be done through us show up if we're not showing up as who we are? It's like, well, you're not showing up. Why would we, like, what's the point of showing you the work that you can do if the you that can do it, you're not giving that you the space to be?
That's why I do what I do. That's the point of my bio. Fullest expression of self, a space to be you.
Bingo. It's been so lovely speaking with you, and I definitely want to be mindful of your time because you you were very flexible given all the things that I had going on to even push it. So I really am grateful for our time together, for you as you are to yourself and to your communities and everything that you do. I think the final question that I have for you is, we've gotten to it throughout the conversation. It's woven throughout. And the question that I ask, because I ask everyone this question who I speak to, is when you hear heal the healers, what comes to you? What settles? What does that bring? What does that trigger?
It brings a sense of community, right? I can almost picture folks linking arms and holding hands and making space for each other, right? To either join in that link or come into receiving. So community, and it just, I think I get almost the vision or the image of like cracked, earth, like the parts of us that feel fractured, are the parts that are burnt out, parts that are triggered, the parts that are overwhelmed, or depleted just by doing the work and holding up the mirror and not sure what to do with that. So I think of Heal the Healers as a kind of a salve, to just fill into those cracks, fill them up and just make us feel whole, as we keep returning back into the work and then back into ourselves and back towards each other. And yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Oni, for your work.
Welcome.
You have such a beautiful, beautiful offering, and I'm really, really so grateful to be in your path today and anytime, and to be able to speak with you and know you and know the work that you're doing, and know that there is you and that there are others like you, filling those spaces for us.
Thank you. I continue to work on showing up as myself for myself, and I can fully reflect that however it looks. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. And it's beautiful to be in community with people like you and people like everyone that I've spoken to thus far, and everyone that I will speak to, and everyone on this earth. I don't care what you're doing, even if we're all doing some hot mess stuff. Like I'm grateful that I get to interact with your hot mess self, because I'll be a hot mess sometimes too. So we get to be around and learn from each other, whatever we are doing.
Yeah, that's humanity. That's what it is.
I love us. I love us humans.
I love us and I hate us at the same time.
I love us in all the beauty that is us, and the full spectrum of that.
You're doing it beautifully. Thank you for modeling it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you again, Hannah, for joining us. And I will have links to where you can learn more about Hannah, to support her work, to just understand everything that she is doing right now and will continue to do and grow and shift and change in all the community that she's building. So thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you to everyone for taking the time to just be here, to witness this conversation and to do with it whatever you will do with it. And again, this is Heal the Healers. This is work that I'm doing because it showed up for me to do. And so I'm doing it. And I'm really honored that I get to be an individual that's doing it, because I know other people are focused on this type of work. You can learn more about how to do that through me, www.onyi.love. I'll have the links in the comments or in the description as well. And definitely do what you can to join, to support, to share. It really helps. It helps. So thank you all so much. Again, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.